Hi everyone and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Today I want to give my thoughts about the new love story series with JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. I finally finished all the episodes, so now I feel like I can weigh in on the subject. I wanted to wait until the end and just give you all my thoughts in one episode. So here it is. So let's start with the book, because the series is based off of the book by Elizabeth Beller, and it's all about Carolyn Bessette, and it's called Once Upon a Time, The Captivating Life of Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy. I've not read this book yet, now I want to, but basically this book gives us a glimpse into Carolyn's life, which is what the series does. And here's what Elizabeth Beller had to say about the series. From what I've seen, it feels like they were respectful, and that was great to see. I think they did a really great job with thoughtful, respectful storytelling. The book was written in 2024, and the biography's focus was on correcting narratives about Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, presenting her as a warm professional figure in the fashion industry rather than the cold persona often portrayed by the media, which this love story series basically shows us what her life was like. She was watched, she was portrayed as this horrible human being, when in reality, she wasn't like that. Now that we've discussed the book and the motivation for the series, let's talk about the series itself. Overall, I thought they did an incredible job. Like Elizabeth Beller said, it's not a documentary, it's a show, and obviously things are going to be exaggerated, like Daryl Hannah.
What are you doing here?
Missed you.
Everyone else in the show, I didn't feel like was too exaggerated. I felt like, yeah, they were going to exaggerate a little bit just because it's a show, but I didn't feel like it was so exaggerated that it was out of character, if that makes sense. Second, because this was based off of a book about Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, it's interesting that the first cast member set was Sarah Pidgeon, the woman who played Carolyn Bessette. It's been said they couldn't find a JFK Jr. They had their Carolyn, they just couldn't find a JFK Jr. until they found Paul. And Sarah was actually instrumental in choosing Paul to play JFK Jr. So this series really was about Carolyn first, and John kind of was an afterthought. He wasn't an afterthought, but it's pretty apparent the series was created to show who Carolyn really was. That's honestly what I feel like. Yes, we all know the stories of JFK Jr. We know the story of what his family went through, but we really didn't know who Carolyn Bessette was. And so this series, it felt like many times the purpose of the series was to show who she really was and really combat the paparazzi narratives of the 90s. Number 3, my thought about the Kate Moss scene where Carolyn is talking to Calvin Klein, and Calvin Klein said he doesn't feel bad for Kate Moss because she's having a hard time adjusting to fame, because being famous is really great. And, you know, Carolyn looked at him and she's like, but did she ask for that? Did she really want that? And I thought that was an excellent way of foreshadowing to what Carolyn was going to be experiencing. And it was really a good look at Carolyn's mentality in terms of someone being famous but still having the right to privacy.
That's this. Kate's irate. Irate about what? Being an overnight sensation with the world at her feet?
And I think it's more about the world in her face. I actually kind of feel for her.
Oh, come on. She knew what she was signing up for.
Did she?
I noticed that every single fight that we saw, the public fights from the 90s that were in the papers or on the news, every single one of those was addressed in this series. Almost like that's what they said was happening in the 90s, but this is what was really happening. This is what we were talking about. This is what was going on behind the scenes. It's almost like it was giving us an explanation for all those arguments and what was really going on.
Carolyn, come on.
Do not grab me.
What am I supposed to do? You're running away from me.
Sorry, I needed time to think about a proposal that came out of nowhere.
It came out of love. But you know what? I take it back.
No, John.
If it's too hard of a decision for you to make, let me relieve you of
John.
it. Give it.
Ow, John, stop it. No. John, stay. Stay.
What is the matter with you?
It addressed John being warned about her. It addressed her being a party girl. It addressed her having a relationship with Michael Bergen. It showed their blow up in the park. It really was as if the storyline was from her perspective. And what's kind of ironic is that, you know, we really didn't know who she was because she really did want her privacy. So she never had a chance to just show who she really was. So that's what this show kind of did. Number 5, this one's kind of weird to me. This is just something I noticed. Sarah, the main actress, There are some scenes where it's kind of Twilight Zone-y. I'd be watching and I'm like, why does she have the same profile as me? Why from behind? It's just certain angles of her that kind of gave me the, whoa, that's kind of crazy. She looks like me, or I look like her, one of the two. First I thought I was going crazy, but then other people started texting me screenshots of her that said the same thing. I don't know, it's just weird to be watching a show and see glimpses of yourself in certain angles of this actress, when really I've never looked like anyone. I've never seen myself as an actress. I've never looked at someone else and said, oh, I look like her. But this one was kind of weird. Number 6, the next thing was that it showed Carolyn not living her life. She was stuck up in the apartment, smoking and laying there. One scene where she's laying underneath the glass table, just looking up, almost as if she's stuck under this glass ceiling she can't break out.
It's breaking when there are clouds. Well, you're gonna get by. That's the time.
So symbolic. That's pretty much how she felt. She's watching life go on from up above. She's stuck behind the window just watching everyone else get to live their lives, but she's stuck up in the apartment. Nobody would like that. Absolutely no one. There's a scene where John says, I don't want to bring you into my world. I want you to pull me out of mine. And I thought that was pretty telling. He didn't want her to be thrust into this crazy, chaotic, paparazzi-filled world. He wanted her to pull him out of that.
I want to change you. I don't want to bring you into my world. I want you to pull me out of it. I want you to be my family. You and me. Our own private island, even when we're in a crowded room.
Number 7's kind of funny, but it was the fight between Michael Berman and JFK Jr. at George magazine.
Look, it's one thing for people to be sitting at home, watching the news, reading the paper, but I just don't see a world in which they're going out of their way to buy a magazine about politics.
But that's because politics has always been presented the same way, which is just a bunch of old guys falling asleep on C-SPAN. I genuinely believe that with the right marketing, we can get people as engaged with politics as they are pop culture or the NFL.
Michael Berman was the co-founder of George magazine and would just kind of berate John and was kind of a bully. And John didn't like bullies. He did not let people talk down to him, and it showed it. I'm glad they showed that, just to show that he's not a pushover. He wouldn't accept someone calling him these names and talking down to him. And after that scuffle, Michael Berman left. In the very first George magazine that JFK Jr.'s name was at the top, alone, without Michael Berman's, was the 17th issue. Kind of cool.
Do you have any idea what life is like propping you up 24/7? I mean, you can't do anything on your own. I've had to be your mommy and your fucking daddy.
Shut the fuck up, did you hear me?
You're nothing without your name. You're a sympathy case with a pretty smile.
Fuck. Fuck you! Get the fuck out of my office!
Gladly. Quit.
Number 8's a big one for me, the music selections. Very, very telling stuff. So there were lots of cool 90s songs that obviously I grew up in the 90s, so it was like a blast from the past. But some of those songs were pretty interesting. For instance, they played Radiohead's Exit Music for a Film. It's a haunting, crescendo-driven song written for the 1996 movie Romeo and Juliet, focusing on themes of escape, forbidden love, and defiance against authority. It captures a couple fleeing restrictive, toxic, or abusive circumstances, ultimately finding peace in death, acting as a direct condemnation of the rules that doomed them.
Wake from your sleep, drying up your tears. Today we escape. We escape.
Very interesting song. There's also a scene where Carolyn wants to go on a trip and they're trying to decide where to go. And John basically says, where do you want to go and when should we come back?
You and I can go on a trip.
Where?
Anywhere you want. Paris, Belize, Tahiti.
For how long?
Until we decide to come home.
I'm sure all of you have seen the two scenes that everyone's talking about are the pilot who looks like an aged JFK Jr.
Gorgeous. Morning. Morning. Feel like logging some hours? Beautiful day for flying. What do you say?
Let's do it.
And then also the very final scene where Anne is reading a poem at the funerals and she says,
Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. And the diamond glints in snow. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I do not die.
I did not die. And it shows JFK Jr. and Carolyn sitting on the beach. What are they doing? Watching the water. Watching the water. Sitting on the beach, watching the water.
Divers today found the bodies of John Kennedy, his wife, and her sister in the wreckage of his plane at the bottom of the ocean off Martha's Vineyard.
Does this look like a library? 50 cents, man. Yo, you get what you needed?
Officer, thank you for being with us, sir. What can you tell us about this last communication with JFK Jr.'s plane?
All I really know at this time is that it was at 9:39 p.m. and it was with the FAA, and it was on its final approach to Martha's Vineyard.
So at 9:39, to the best of your information, JFK Jr. made a contact with the airport, with the flight controllers, the air traffic controllers at Martha's Vineyard Airport, that he was on a final descent.
That is correct.
At 9:39.
Carolyn, please, Carolyn, where are you?
So, what does this all mean? Well, it means that we're all crazy, or these film producers are stirring the pot. They're stirring the pot. The JFK Jr., Carolyn Bessette conspiracy plot. They're just stirring it. And it's about to boil over.
I guess when I think of where it was I was happiest is probably on stage.
Like acting?
Yeah, I did a lot of theater in high school and college, and I loved it. Something about being the character, being up on stage. I felt like I could do whatever I wanted and no one could judge me.
Everybody over 10 years old in 1963 remembers her with the greatest gratitude because it was her strength that carried us through that awful, awful November of 1963.
That was also the first time anything like this had ever been seen on television.
No one we knew ever had a better sense of self. Her 2 children turned out to be extraordinary. Honest, unspoiled, with a character equal to hers. She reveled in their accomplishments. She hurt with their sorrows. She felt sheer joy and delight in spending time with them. They are her 2 miracles. I often think of what she said about Jack in December after he died. They made him a legend when he would have preferred to be a man. Jackie would have preferred to be just herself, but the world insisted that she be a legend too.
Everyone is talking about JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, even the younger population. People in their 20s are actually discussing this now because of this series. So it's pretty interesting that, you know, my generation that was growing up in the 90s, the older generation, older than me, they all remember this happening. It was a little foggy for me, but the younger generation now has some context as to who they were and what their love story was. So it's all very interesting that this is all coming back. And given all of the things surrounding George Magazine, JFK Jr., Hillary Clinton, the stuff that Trump is putting out there.
But I actually knew him and liked him, and he liked me, believe it or not. He actually put me on the cover of his magazine, George. And I got to be friendly with him, and he would go down to Mar-a-Lago with me and with Carolyn. It was a tragic thing. Look, he was going to sell that magazine, which was, you know, a little bit of an anchor. It didn't work out too well. It was okay, but it was fine. Today, magazines are not doing too well, but in those days, they'd be all right. It was all right, but it wasn't great and wasn't good for him. You know, his mother he wanted to be a Broadway actor more than any other thing. He wanted to be a Broadway. I knew him very well, actually. He liked me. Can you believe it? He liked me. And I liked him. Let me tell you, he's a very handsome guy. He was a handsome guy. You don't get better looking. And he was going to run for politics. He was going to run for the Senate. He told me. And nobody would have beaten him. And he probably would have ended up being president.
I want a simple life. I won't have that if I'm with someone who wants to be president.
Carolyn, I can barely run George.
You can be coy with the press all you want, but if I'm going to marry you, I want the truth. Do you think you might want to be president one day?
No. I don't want that. I don't want to be a great man. I just want to be a good man.
There's just been a lot of chatter in the cloakroom as to how the party might best deploy you.
Oh.
I'm just saying, senator sounds a lot better than former editor of George.
Sorry, Elaine.
I told you, you can throw your hat in the ring whenever you want.
What did you have in mind?
When you put it all out there, it certainly seems to tell a very interesting story.
Before we got married, there'd be a few photographers waiting outside a restaurant. They'd get their shots and they'd go home. But now, they don't go home. Like, they sleep in tents on our sidewalk and seemingly spawn. They won't leave us alone.
If you haven't seen Love Story yet, I highly recommend it. Sarah Pidgeon and Paul did a wonderful job portraying JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. I thought their acting was incredible. So that does it for today's show. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.
He spent his whole life bound to that little boy. Desperate to free himself from a tragedy he couldn't even remember. All he wanted was to simply be. I am not there. I did not die.
Of this extraordinary magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, I mean, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.